Hi guys, my name is Lizzie and welcome to my YouTube channel. So about a month or so ago, I made a video with all of my college decision reactions, and today this is sort of a follow-up. I'm going to be announcing what college I'm committed to. If you know me in person or you follow me on Instagram or TikTok, then you already know what college I'm going to, but I thought this video would just be fun to make, and I'm always here for an excuse to make cupcakes. There were several requests under my last video to make a stats video, so I've already filmed one. I'm working on that. It should be coming out soon, and I'm also planning on making a video with tips for college applications and how I chose what schools to apply to. So basically, if you haven't seen a video like this before, I made cupcakes, and these are all of the colleges that I applied to, and I'm going to be going through and eliminating them until I get to the final school that I chose. I don't know if people usually end up eating the cupcakes in these videos, but I'm hungry, and just like looking at these is making me hungrier, so that's what I'm probably gonna do. But before I get into that, I'm just gonna quickly talk about some of the things that I was looking for in a school so you guys understand my choices more. So definitely the number one factor that I was looking at was cost. In America, going to college is a huge financial decision, and it's not something that I took lightly at all. The student debt crisis is a huge problem in this country, and my parents told me they didn't want me to take out any loans, and I completely agree with that. The college you go to and taking out excessive loans is a decision that could follow you for the rest of your life. I think it's very sad that it has to be that way, but it is the truth, and I think it's really, really important to make a financially responsible decision. So with that also comes the idea of comparing cost to value. So if a school is a little more expensive than another school, but it's either more prestigious or has a better program for your major, then it might be worth it to go to that school over the other. So comparing cost to value is probably something I'll be talking about a little more as this video goes on, but definitely the cost of a school was one of, if not the most important thing I was looking at when choosing my school. The next thing I was looking at was, of course, academics. It's important to go to a school that's going to be rigorous, challenging, and prepare you for life after college. To me, good academics means maybe it has a high graduation rate, good professors, good alumni network, maybe it has a high ranking on US News, and if a school maybe wasn't as prestigious, then I tried to apply to the honors college, so I had a little bit of an extra challenge within the school. At the beginning of my college application process, I didn't really know what I wanted to major in, and deciding on that has definitely been a difficult thing for me. Towards the end, I had a better idea of what I wanted to major in and what I wanted to do after college, but initially when I was applying to all these schools, I wasn't really looking at individual programs. But if you do know what you want to do and what you want to major in, I think it is really important to look at that specific program. The major decision definitely came into play later on when I was choosing my final school. Another thing I wanted was a lot of school spirit. I went to a high school that was severely lacking in school spirit, and I'm a very spirited person. I love spirit weeks and pep rallies and just participating in what my high school had to offer. But it was definitely disheartening to me when it was Spirit Week and only like 10% of my school would dress up, and then I would look around at nearby schools and see how like everyone was participated in and involved and excited. So I didn't get to choose my high school, but since I do get to choose my college, I knew I wanted to go to a school that had a lot of school spirit. This is my cat. I don't know if you can see her. So something that kind of goes along with school spirit is a big football team. I definitely think a lot of the schools that have a ton of school spirit also have a really big football team, and that's definitely something that appealed to me. It wasn't anything make or break, but it was definitely something that made a school look a little bit better in my eyes. And then there was also climate. If you look at all the schools I applied to, there are no schools like geographically above Maryland. I'm from Maryland and I wanted to go somewhere warmer. We do have 4 seasons here, which is nice, but I just hate the cold so much. People say that climate's a silly thing to look at, but for me it's important because I just love being outside and with nature, and I think it's really good for my mental health if I can do that, and if I can just enjoy myself when I walk out the door and not be freezing, which is going to have a big impact on your motivation. I definitely find that I'm just happier and more motivated when the weather is warm. Not that all of these schools are really in a warm area, but they're not in a cold area per se. I definitely applied to a wide variety of schools. Some of them are smaller, some of them are bigger. I think overall I wanted a bigger school, but I just applied to a few smaller ones so that I would have a lot to choose from. But overall, I think all the schools that I have here are great schools. I think you can get a good education at any of them, but at the end of the day, I found a school that I'm really, really excited to go to, and I think it's time to start eliminating them. So the first 2 schools I'm going to get rid of are the schools that I was waitlisted from, and so that is UNC and Tulane. I wasn't outright rejected from any schools, which is nice, but being waitlisted still kind of hurt, so a little sad about that, but it is what it is. So the next school I cut off my list pretty early on was High Point. So I actually originally wasn't going to apply to High Point because they don't have a football team, but I was in North Carolina doing some college visits, and we were just nearby High Point, and we had heard that their campus was really, really pretty. So we decided to just drive through it. It was night, so we weren't really expecting it to look that nice, But let me tell you guys, if you ever visit this campus, you will literally get hypnotized because it is the prettiest campus ever. It literally looks like a resort. The buildings are all brand new, and even though it was night, everything was lit up and it was just so pretty. So after we drove through the campus, I was like, I need to apply to this school. I don't care that they don't have a football team, I'm just gonna apply there anyway. But the hypnosis eventually wore off. I just got some kind of weird vibes from this school. I really did want to go to a school with a football team. And side note, all the schools I applied to aside from High Point had D1 football, but I think that was kind of a dumb criteria to go by because there's a huge difference between D1 football at like Furman and D1 football at Clemson. Even though they're both D1, they're really not comparable at all. Just by looking at the stadium capacity, like Clemson and like Florida State, those like big football schools, their stadiums are like NFL stadiums. They're huge. So I think it's really weird the way that the divisions are classified, and in recollection, my insistence on applying to schools with D1 football teams was kind of dumb. So one of the next schools that I eliminated was Clemson. I think Clemson is a really great school, and we didn't do an official tour, but we did just go to campus and walk around. And the main thing I didn't really like about Clemson is it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. It is definitely in a really beautiful part of South Carolina, but it's not really near any major city or town. I believe the closest city is Greenville. I don't know the exact distance, but it's not like something you can bike to. I really wanted to go to a college that was not necessarily in a huge city, but just had a nice downtown area. And I'm sure there's lots of things to do around Clemson, but it was kind of a combination of that, and then I was too lazy to apply to their honors college, and then they didn't end up giving me big enough of a scholarship for it to be worth it to go there. One of the next schools that I eliminated was Elon. If you watched my last video, you know that I applied to their Honors Fellows program and I didn't even get invited to the weekend. So that upset me a lot. I was pretty heartbroken. I really loved Elon. I toured their campus. It was beautiful. But the only way I would go is if I got into their Honors Fellows program because it comes along with a scholarship that would make the total cost around $30,000 a year instead of like $50,000. But since I didn't get in, I would have had to pay like $45,000 a year, which is just too much in my opinion. I guess I had assumed I would get invited to the weekend because my stats were a lot higher than the average stats for the program. But you know what they say about assumptions, and I was really hurt by this, but made it pretty easy to eliminate. The next school I eliminated was University of Arizona. I am from the East Coast, so this school is super far away, which is kind of a downside because I think it's nice to be able to drive to your college. I thought it would be cool to live on the West Coast, and maybe I will one day, but at the end of the day, this was more of a safety school for me, so it just didn't end up being at the top of my list. The next school I eliminated was Furman. I almost dropped it. Furman was the smallest school I applied to. It has around 2,000 undergrads. And I toured it. We went to this special Fall for Furman Day, which was really nice. I think they have a beautiful campus. We got to go to a tailgate where they gave us free food, and we went to a football game. But at the end of the day, I wanted to go to a school that was a little bit bigger. And then they ended up not giving me enough of a scholarship for it to be worth it to go there, so it was a pretty easy elimination. All right, we are now halfway through. So next, I eliminated University of Miami. I did get a scholarship from Miami and I got into their honors program, but this school is so expensive to begin with that even with the scholarship they gave me, it still would have cost a lot to go there, which is the main reason I eliminated it. It was kind of the cost value thing I was talking about earlier. Another problem I had with this school was I've heard, and I do believe this to be true, that when they're giving out merit scholarships, they'll sometimes look at your financial aid if you sent them your FAFSA, which I have a problem with. I don't think colleges should do that. I think financial aid and merit aid should be separate because I know for myself, as well as many people, the number on your FAFSA that the government thinks you can afford for a college is oftentimes a lot higher than what you can actually afford. So I think they should be completely separate. I didn't send them my FAFSA, and I'm glad I didn't. I do think it's a really great school though. I have a friend that's going there, but I did have to eliminate it. One of the next schools that I eliminated was the University of Maryland. So this was the only in-state school I applied to. Both of my parents went here. I know a lot of people that go there right now or will be going there in the fall. I think it's a great school and has a really great engineering program. Because it's in-state, it's affordable, and I got into their honors college, which was pretty cool. But at the end of the day, I really just wanted to go somewhere else. I've lived in Maryland my entire life. I've lived in the same house for 18 years, and I really just wanted to go somewhere new and just experience a different part of the country. Another thing about Maryland is I got into their honors college, and they give you this survey where you select your top 5 living learning communities for the honors program, and it basically gives you your housing. So I filled that out because if I did end up going there, I would have needed to, and they gave me my 5th choice, which I was pretty offended by. But the thing is that 5th choice housing I have stayed in before, because a few years ago I went to a field hockey camp at the University of Maryland over the summer, and I stayed in their honors housing. I remember getting there and seeing that it said honors on the wall, and like looking at my dorm and being like, how is this their honors housing? Like, you would think the honors housing would be nice. I don't think they've renovated it since my parents went there, and my parents even said it was not nice when they went there. And I just remember hating the dorm so much because they had 3 of us in there, and it was a room meant to be a double, and it was super cold, and I really didn't like the food either. I thought it was gross, but it was a dining hall. Pretty much every school has like fast food restaurants at it in the student union, so that just kind of gave me a bad impression of UMD, because I was like, if I go there, I would be staying in the same place that I hated during field hockey camp. It is kind of ironic because the school I ended up choosing doesn't really have the nicest housing either. But overall, I just wanted to go somewhere new, so I eliminated this school. So the next school I eliminated was William & Mary. This one kind of hurt because I loved William & Mary so much. It was actually the first school I toured, and the campus is beautiful. It's the second college that was founded in the US after Harvard. Thomas Jefferson went there. It's just really historically cool, and I actually did an interview there as well. But the out-of-state tuition is just really expensive. It's like $60,000 a year. They don't give out a lot of scholarships. So I kind of knew applying there that I probably wouldn't be able to go, but still applied just in case a miracle happened. Another thing about William & Mary is, I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I didn't really know what I wanted to major in at the beginning of my college application process, but more towards the end I got a better idea of what I wanted to do, and that was something in the engineering field. And I went to a STEM panel when I was touring William & Mary, and their engineering program is kind of weird because you don't stay at William & Mary for 4 years. You eventually transfer to either like Columbia or Cornell. Pretty sure it was an Ivy League that started with a C. So that's not really something I wanted. I want to go to a school and stay there for 4 years, or however long it takes me to complete my degree. And also, Ivy League schools are even more expensive than William & Mary, so my debt would just be like a little too much. So sadly, I had to eliminate it. This next one hurt the most, and it's USC. This was one of my reach schools. I was really excited to get in, but at the end of the day, this school costs $75,000 a year, and if I went to USC, I would be in a lot of debt. Not to mention the flights from Maryland to California are really expensive as well, so that would just be on top of the huge tuition. I also never got to tour USC. I've only been to LA once in my life, and that was when I was in 7th grade. And personally, I really want to be able to tour a school before I commit to it and just get a feel for it. Yes, this is a really prestigious school, but being in debt for the next 20 plus years is not something that I thought was worth it, and it was not something my parents wanted me to do, so I had to eliminate it. Alright, so we're down to the final 3, and I am really hungry. I really am ready to eat these cupcakes. So I know a lot of people narrow their schools down to their final 2, but I never really had a final 2. I had a final 3, so I'm just going to talk about each of these schools, the pros and cons, and then I'm going to tell you which one I chose. So starting with South Carolina, the main reason I liked this school was I got into their honors program, and their honors program is really good. It's prestigious. They like to brag about it being the best in the country. There are lots of benefits of being in the program. The housing was nice. You get to register for classes early. I also really liked the city of Columbia. I thought the campus was really pretty. It just has this nice classic like southern dark academia feel to it. I had an in-state tuition waiver, so it was affordable. Now we have Florida State. I got into their honors program as well. There were lots of perks to being in the honors college. The housing was really nice. It was really central and pretty. I got an in-state tuition waiver. It was the cheapest out of these 3 schools. It's in the city of Tallahassee, which wasn't my favorite city, but it was still nice. It has a really pretty campus, a lot of school spirit, big football team. The major downside is their engineering program is kind of weird because you take your engineering classes at Florida A&M and not FSU, which I didn't really like. All right, and then University of Florida. So I know that FSU and UF are huge rivals. When you're from Maryland, you don't grow up with that rivalry, so you don't really care as much. I wanted to go somewhere warm, so I applied to both of the schools. So, University of Florida, I didn't get to take an official tour, but I walked around campus and I loved it. It has a really pretty campus. It's in Gainesville, which isn't a huge city, but from what I saw, it was really pretty. It had a nice downtown area, had a nice college town feel. They have a really big football team, a lot of school spirit. I liked their mascot the best out of these 3. They gave me enough of a scholarship that it was affordable, it has great programs, it's highly ranked. Of course, it's in Florida, it's really warm, and I definitely got really good vibes from the campus. So the school that I ended up choosing was University of Florida. So to talk about this school, I'm actually going to tell you guys a little bit of a story. So I found out I got a scholarship from UF in the beginning of March, and this is right before all of the coronavirus stuff really started taking off. I wasn't expecting to get a scholarship. It wasn't really in the running before then, but as soon as I found out, I was super excited, and we knew that we had to tour the school immediately because things were about to get shut down soon. So I found out on a Wednesday that I got the scholarship, and we scheduled a tour for that Friday. It was too late notice to book a plane ticket, so we were going to drive down there. I was going to miss 2 days of school, and it turned out those 2 days of school would have been my last 2 days of high school ever. As we drove down, the Maryland superintendent announced that schools were going to be closed for the next 2 weeks. It was just a crazy experience. They ended up canceling our tour because the whole university was shutting down, but we still just wanted to drive down there and walk around the campus so I could get a feel for it. And it was definitely worth it. I had toured a lot of schools before this point, and I've watched all these YouTube videos where people say that when they step foot onto the school they ended up choosing, they just get this feeling where they know that's the school that's right for them. And before then, I'd never gotten that feeling. I toured a lot of schools, and I loved most of them. So I wasn't upset about not getting that gut feeling, but it was always kind of hovering in the back of my mind, like, am I going to find that school? So I had thought I was done touring schools. I had kind of accepted that it wasn't going to happen. Then we drove down to UF, and as soon as I stepped on campus, I kind of just knew that, like, this was the school I'm meant to be at. I really loved everything about it. I loved the campus, I loved the weather, I loved the vibes, I loved the mascot. I will say the housing and the food, not the best, but I think it's gonna be worth it anyway. I'm so excited to start at UF, hopefully in the fall. Another great thing about Florida is we're able to drive to it. It is really far, but we can drive. So when I initially move in, that makes things so much easier for taking all my stuff down. But when I want to visit home for breaks, I can fly back. So now, I'm gonna eat this cupcake because I'm really hungry. These are homemade, by the way. Really good. Thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for more videos, and have a great day.